it's Iain from RTO here. Welcome to another Marathon Wednesday, and carrying on with the theme of this week being about the sorts of things that influenced me, as this is our anniversary week. I'm going to do one of my favourite bands, Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd, founded in 1964 by Syd Barrett, Nick Mason, Roger Waters, Richard Wright, and a guitarist called Bob Close. Close quit in 1965. Then under Barrett's leadership they released 2 albums. Obviously they brought in Dave Gilmour because poor old Syd was suffering from deteriorating mental health problems. And the rest is history, because there's lots of history with this band, people falling out, squabbles and court cases over the name and all sorts, but they finally did get together one more time before sadly Richard Wright passed. So I think they're sort of still on talking terms, but I don't think they'll ever all work together again. Okay then, well, they've released 15 albums. I love them all. There's not a bad Pink Floyd album. I just prefer some more than others. So if your favourite is not my favourite, there's nothing wrong with that. It's all good. So let's get a cracking. So coming in at number 415, we go to the third album, released on the 13th of June 1969. It is the soundtrack to the film More, a film that I have never seen. So first track on here is called Cyrus Minor. It's got some really nice keyboard textures on this. I do like it. I think it's very, very good. Second song is the Nile song. This is the heaviest track that Pink Floyd have ever put out. There's some driving rock riffs in it. Pretty good, solid stuff. My favourite on the album. Number 3 on the album is Crying Song. It's a nice little pleasant song. Some nice textures. Good bass line from Roger. Excellent. Up the Khyber. This is a bit weird and wonderful. It's one of them little interlude bits of music from the film. So if you've not watched the film, you've got no idea what it's supposed to be interpreting. Green is the Colour. This is an acoustic track from Pink Floyd. Isn't too bad at all. Cymbeline, another of those little acoustic tracks. Not too bad at all. Party Sequence. There's lots of drum and noises. I think must have something to do with what's going on in the film. Then we have the main theme. This is very psychedelic. It's okay, I don't mind it. Ibiza Bar. That's another heavy track. Some great guitar riffs in that. Then we get more blues. Just that's it. What it is. It's a bit of blues. Nothing wrong with that. Quicksilver. Now the playing on this is fantastic, but it's a track that I'm not actually keen on. I think it's a little bit dull and sort of meanders. Then we get a Spanish piece. It's just weird, and the vocal on this is absolute bonkers. Then we get Dramatic Theme. Again, it's one of them things where they play it really well. They're well constructed, but it doesn't really float my boat. Not a bad album. This album at the end of the day is a soundtrack, and it's got some really good tracks on it, but because I've not seen the film, I really can't picture some of the more obscure stuff, so I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 6 out of 10. Okay then, coming in at number 14, we go to the fourth album, released in 1969. Again, this one was November the 7th, and it is Ummagumma. Now Ummagumma, of course, is the double album, where the first album is stuff of live recordings done at the Mothers Club in Birmingham, and the College of Commerce in Manchester. Then the second album contains compositions by each member of the band. So we'll quickly go through this live stuff. We've got Astronomy Domini, Careful with That Axe Eugene, Set the Controls to the Heart of the Sun, and Saucerful of Secrets. And then we get on to the studio stuff. The first one on here is Cyphers, which is a 4-part piece by Richard Wright. It's okay, but I really have to be in the mood to listen to this. I do struggle with this piece, I must admit. It's a little bit weird in places. Then we get Grantchester Meadows, written by Mr. Waters. I like this. It's my favourite track on the album. It's just a lovely piece of music, going back to the days of, I think, their college days. It is just fantastic. But then he does another track, and which to me is a load of codswallop. Several species of small furry animals gathered together in a cave and grooving with a pit. I just don't get on with it. So we move on. Then we get side 4, and we get The Narrow Way, which is a David Gilmour thing, and it's really good. Next to Grantchester Meadows, this is my favourite piece on the album. And then we get Nick Mason's The Grand Visor's Garden Party. It's okay, but I do like the first part, which has got a nice flute piece to it. Very, very good. I love the live side better on this album. I do struggle with some of these tracks on the studio stuff. It's not a bad album though. It's a little bit experimental for me in some places, but I'll give it an RTO ranking of 6.5. Okay, then coming in at number 13, we have the 12th album released in 1983, The Final Cut. Obviously this is the last album that Roger Waters would appear on in Pink Floyd. There's no Richard Wright because he'd been sacked. Dave Gilmour's guitar work was less than less. Nick Mason drums on some of it, and then he goes. He's had enough. The band fell apart on this album, so we've got additional musicians on this one. We've got Michael Kamen on piano, Andy Bell from Status Quo did some Hammond organ on some of the tracks. Ray Cooper did some percussion, and because the last track Nick Mason had said I've had it, I'm off, they brought in Andy Newark. First track on here is The Post-War Dream. Very dramatic track. Very good vocal from Roger. I do like that one. Your Possible Pasts. It's okay, it's got a few little bits in it, but it doesn't flow very well. Although I do like the guitar solo from Dave Gilmour. One of the few, it's one of these pointless little filler ditties. Then we get on the CD, not the album, but on the CD, we get When the Tigers Broke Free, which is a song that's from the soundtrack of the movie The Wall. Should have been put on that album, but for some reason it wasn't, so on the CD version you get it here. I like this. It's just a brilliant piece of music. It's my favourite. It's actually my favourite on this album. I don't know what my favourite would be if it wasn't, but it's my favourite piece on the CD. The Hero's Return. It's an okay track. I don't mind it, but it's not a Pink Floyd track. Let's just say that, shall we? The Gunner's Dream. Very, very melodic, and I wouldn't say depressing, but it doesn't do much for me. Paranoid Eyes, another good song, but it doesn't fit on a Pink Floyd album. Then we get Your Filthy Hands Off My Desert, a bit of that protest song about Maggie and the Argentinians and all that sort of thing. Then we get the Fletcher Memorial Home. It's just nothing to it. It just doesn't do anything for me. Southampton Dock. I don't mind that bit. It's a little track. Final Cut. I actually like this track. It's a very, very good track. Then it goes into Not Now John. David Gilmour is finally let loose, and boy does he make his presence felt. It's a great rocker, great guitar solo, great vocal, and some lovely harmonies. I was using the F word, so it's not a too bad track. Two Suns in the Sunset. It's just them going through the motions. I don't know. This album is certainly a band in total disarray. Richard Wright had been sacked. Dave Gilmour doesn't play much on it. It's dull and depressing in places. I would say this is a bad Pink Floyd album, but a very good Roger Waters solo album. It should have been a solo album. But for the tracks I do like, and it is an album that you can put on and just chill out to. I'll give it an RTO ranking of 7 out of 10. Okay, coming in at number 12 of the second album, released in 1968, Saucerful of Secrets. This was Syd Barrett's last contributions to the band. By this time they'd brought in David Gilmour. Syd Barrett sings on a couple. Dave Gilmour does all the guitars, except on track 2 and track 7, the ones that Syd does. But and the rest of the album is done by David Gilmour. First track on here is the fantastic Let There Be More Light. I love this track. I love that really great bass line from Roger, the great eerie keyboard touches from Richard, some delicate touches from Nick Mason, and throw in a good guitar solo from Dave Gilmour. It's a really good track. Remember a Day, Syd's contribution to the album. It's not personally one of my favourite songs on the album, but yeah, I just like it just to hear Syd singing and doing some work. So I don't mind it. Then we get to Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun, one of the most eerie tracks Pink Floyd ever did, and I love that one. Corporal Clegg. It's okay. It's not one of my favourite tracks. It's got some good guitar riffs and a nice solo though. I'll give it that. Saucerful of Secrets. Again, a very good track. A band in progress. They still haven't found their feet, but the potential was there with this track. It's got, my favourite bit on the piece is that choral piece and that church organ from Richard. This is my favourite track on the album. Seesaw. Probably one of the tracks I can count on my hand I don't like. Jug Band Blues. It's a typical Syd Barrett song. Nice to hear Syd's voice once more at time. As with the Final Cut, this album is a band in turmoil. Poor old Syd's mental health is deteriorating. He's not putting much input. They bring in Dave Gilmour. Has got some great tracks on there, but there are some mediocre ones. I'm sorry to say, even though it's got these Syd Barrett, they're not the best Syd Barrett songs you'll ever hear. But Saucerful of Secrets is a great little piece of music, so I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7.5. Okay, then coming in at number 11, we have the 11th album, released in 1972, Obscured by Clouds. It's the one that's sandwiched between Meddle and Dark Side of the Moon, of course. This has got the usual 4 on it, which we don't need to tell you. So the first track is Obscured by Clouds. Love the guitar solo in this. It's a nice instrumental, some really nice touches on the keyboards and drums here from both Richard Wright and Nick Mason. When you're in, this is a short little instrumental, but very progressive. Very progressive. I'd say this is the first real piece of progressive music that we got, proper prog we got from Pink Floyd. Burning Bridges, I'd say this is very Procol Harum, and I like the keyboard from Rick on this. It's terrific. Gold, it's in the ... One of the heaviest tracks again from Pink Floyd. Some great guitar work here from David. Brilliant stuff. What's the Deal? Really nice, gentle pastiche song. Lots of acoustic guitars on this. Terrific track. Mudmen. One of the tracks I'm not keen on. The main reason it's the guitar solo. It's so high pitched. It really all on your ears. If it had toned that down a bit, I think it'd be a better track. Then we get Childhood's End. Good track. Like how this flows. They nearly get that sound they really want. It's got even got some heavy metal bits in it as well, so it's a pretty good track. Then we get my favourite, 3/4. I just love that bassy sound to this. Love Roger's vocal on this. It's a lovely arrangement. Then we get Stay. Mediocre, bit of a filler for me, that one. It's okay. Absolute Curtains. This is an instrumental. This is certainly a band in transition in this track. It's still got lots of elements of psychedelia, plus some rock, some prog rock. They're still sort of sorting themselves out, but I do like what sounds like a South African tribal singing at the end. It's really nice. This is a really good album. It's always forgotten about because it's that one sandwiched between two greats. I'd say this is more work in progress. It's not a bad album, and I don't play it as much as the others, but I'll give this an RTO ranking of 7.8. Okay, then coming in at number 10, we go to the 13th album, released in 1987, A Momentary Lapse of Reason, the first album without Roger Waters. Richard Wright was not an official member of the band. He was just a paid musician. There was some red tape going on. So we've got Dave Gilmour, Nick Mason, Richard Wright, Bob Ezrin does keyboards, John Carring keyboards, Patrick Leonard on synthesizers, Bill Payne came and did some Hammond organ, Michael Lando some guitar, Tony Levin is on here on the bass, Chapman Stick on One Slip, Jim Kelter, Carmine Appice makes an appearance on Dogs of War. The backing ladies are Darlene Codlehoven, Carmen Tweel, Phyllis St James and Donny Gerard. Signs of Life is that first track. I love this. It's that lovely keyboards from Richard and the rowing boats adds some really nice atmospherics. Learning to Fly, love this track. Always have liked this. I prefer it now than I did, although I still like the track. We'll talk about that at the end of the little review on it. The Dogs of War, love this track. Great drumming by Carmine, absolutely stunning. Then we get One Slip, a track that I've never liked. On the Turning Away, it's a pleasant enough song. Got a great guitar solo, but it's not one of my favourites. Then we get Yet Another Movie. I like this. It's got some great guitar work from David on it. Terrific. Round and Round Around. Little interlude piece. Then we get A New Machine Part 1. The vocals in this is eerie and atmospheric. Terrific. which goes nicely into this instrumental called Terminal Frost. Very atmospheric again, with a great solo, and that sort of slips back into a New Machine Part 2, which is very eerie again, and it just, them three tracks go lovely together. Then we get Sorrow, my favourite track on the album. That first opening guitar from Dave Gilmour is fantastic. Really good track, catchy tune, and then it ends the same way it started. When this album first came out, the production of it was pretty 1980s. A lot of electronic drums on it. It just didn't sound right. But they had the sense to go back and remix it, redo the drums. Nick Mason went and played the drums again, and the remix is a far better album. I think the tracks I really like are the Sorrow, Terminal Frost, Learning to Fly, Dogs of War. Even though they didn't go over the Carmine's drumming, they remixed it and it sounds a lot better. His drumming's better on it. On the whole, it's a reasonable album. It's not the best, but it's pleasant, and I saw them a couple of times on this tour. So I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 8 out of 10. Coming in number 9 then, we're going to the 14th album, next one after it. From 1994, The Division Bell. By this time, Richard Rowett is now a full member of Pink Floyd, and he gets a little bit more input. So joining them on here, we've got John Careen again on grand piano and Wurlitzer piano, Guy Pratt, stalwart of Pink Floyd Live, on bass, and now he is obviously working with Nick Mason on the Saucerful of Secrets. Gary Wallace doing percussion, Tim Renwick. These are people that are all play live. Dick Parry's back on the tenor sax. Nice to see Dick Parry back in the doing stuff. Bob Ezrin, Sam Brown, Durga McBroom, Carol Kenyon, Jackie Sheridan, Rebecca Lee White, and Mr. Stephen Hawking doing voice samples. Cluster 1. Love the guitar work on it. The interplay between Richard Wright and David Gilmour on this is fantastic. What Do You Want From Me? Love that funky piano on this. Really good vocal from David. Really drives the song along with his vocal on this. Impressive solo as well. Poles Apart, another good song. Bit different. It's an oddity, but it's a very good song. Then we get Marooned. I love this. Got a classic Dave Gilmour solo on it, and you get more songs like this on his next solo album. A Great Day for Freedom, another great track. Such a relaxing track. It's got a catchy tune to it, and some nice keyboards from Richard Wright. Plays some great stuff on this. Then we get another good track, Wearing the Inside Out. This is where we get to hear Richard Wright singing. It's a lovely track. Wonderful. Take It Back. This opens up, this has got a lot of potential. It opens up with a great guitar solo and then just starts to fade away into nothing, and it's not a favourite of mine. Coming Back to Life. Great track. Catchy tune. Builds up and builds up. Great little track. Keep Talking. Love Stephen Hawking's contribution on this. Really adds to this track. Some great keyboard work here from Mr. Wright again. Lost for Words. Probably one of the weakest tracks on the album. Doesn't do nothing for me. But then the last track, High Hopes, it's fantastic. Starts off with the eerie bells, and then you get the acoustic guitar, and then the guitar solo on this is just fantastic. Great closing track. This album is certainly a lot better than Momentary Lapse of Reason. It's got a bit more structure to it. Polly Sampson, partner of Mr. Gilmour, does the co-writing, and I think Richard Wright had more input in this, and I think they did a sterling job on this. So I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 8.5. Okay, coming in at number 8. This will shock a lot of people, I think. It's the 15th album, released in 2014, The Endless River. It's the 3rd album and final album. And after this is an album that Richard Wright appears on, who sadly died in 2008. This is the stuff that's, of course, as ambient music based on material recorded during the sessions for the Division Bell. It's basically got everyone that played on the Division Bell. So, first track on here is Things Left Unsaid. Again, most of these are all instrumental pieces, and this is wonderful. And David and Richard have said this before, played off each other lovely on that. It's so relaxing. It's What We Do. Again, this is such a lovely piece of guitar work. Dave Gilmour doing obviously the electric solos and all that good stuff, and the bass line from Guy Pratt. It's brilliant. Ebb and Flow, very short acoustic piece. It's beautiful. Some nice keyboard work again from Richard. Very, very psychedelic. One of my favourite pieces. Skins, great drumming from Nick Mason on this. Sounds really good. Unsung, beautiful textures here on the keyboards and the guitar. Fantastic. Unseen, classic piano work here from Richard Wright. Wonderful stuff. The Lost Art of Conversation, very short a piece of music, but the piano sounds wonderful on it. On Noodle Street, another short piece, some nice guitar doodles on that. Nightlife, atmospheric, lovely keyboard textures. Then we get Allian, or Allon's Y1. Wait, I don't know how to pronounce that. Bit of leftover bits from High Hopes, I think. It's got that sort of feel to it. Really lifting little track. Then we get Autumn of '68. Church bells ringing, organs. It's very Grantchester Meadows, which is pretty cool. Allianz 2. More classical guitar work here. Great track. Then Talking Hawking, my favourite piece. Again, we got some more of Stephen Hawking's voice samples. Great bass line from Guy Pratt. Calling, very dramatic piece. Lots of keyboard swells in this. Eyes to the Pearls. Love the drumming on this. It's quite echoey and the guitars sound good. Surfacing, one of my favourite guitar solos by David Gilmour, full stop. It's just brilliant. Louder Than Words, the only song that's got some words to it, written by Dave Gilmour and Polly Sampson. That's a nice song. I'm one of the people that really likes this. I know it's got a lot of the bips and bobs from the last album, the stuff they didn't use, but I think it's some of Richard Wright's best work. Some great guitar work from Dave Gilmour, and I think this is the best of the 3 albums. I think this is better than the 2 proper albums. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 9 out of 10. Okay then, coming in at number 7. Go all the way back to 1967 for the debut album, The Piper at the Gates of Dawn. This is Syd Barrett, Roger Waters, Richard Wright and Nick Mason. First track is the brilliant Astronomai Domini. Love this. It's just brilliant. Love Syd's guitar work on this. It's absolutely stunning. Second track, Lufisus Lufisat Sam. I have trouble with that word. A brilliant track. The bass line on this is great. Sid's guitar playing is good. He was such a good guitar player, was Sid. Matilda Mother, great keyboard from Richard Wright on this, blows your brains out. Flaming, weird and wonderful lyric from Sid. He was certainly on a different planet to the rest of us. Then we got Pow R Tok H. This is an instrumental. This is so psychedelic and weird and mad, but an enjoyable madness. Then my favourite title of a Pink Floyd track, Take Up Thy Stethoscope and Walk. The drumming on this from Nick Mason is just amazing. It's a very 60s poppy sort of song, but it's just great. Then comes my favourite on the album, the magnificent Interstellar Overdrive. Love all the guitar work from Sid on this. The keyboards sound great. The drumming is that amazing opening riff on this. Brilliant. Then we get The Gnome, one of Sid's little silly songs, but can't dislike it. Very pastiche. Chapter 24, another psychedelic track that took it to another level. Love the keyboards in this. A great bass line. The Scarecrow, this is probably the weakest track on the album. It's still not terrible. And then we get Bike. Don't you just love this? I've got a bike, a very nice one with a basket and a bell. This is what we loved about Sid. What a debut album. Something different, bit fresh. I love it, still love it today. And I'll give this an RTO ranking of 9.4. Okay, we're now going to the top 6. Now the top 6 for me were the hardest. As I said, I like all these albums, but these 6 gave me a headache. So coming in at number 6, we have the 6th album released in 1971, Meddle. Opens up one of the greatest openings of a Pink Floyd album. Not the greatest, one of the greatest. It's One of These Days. Swirling wind, that boomy bass, Nick's great drumming, the slide guitar, the steel, it's done on the steel guitar from Dave Gilmour. And One of These Days I'm going to cut you into little pieces. Boom. Just brilliant, isn't it? Second track, Pillow of Winds. One of the weakest tracks on this. It's not my favourite, I must admit, but it has got some nice guitar touches from David. Fearless. Love this. Lovely song. I love the ending. Just Liverpool fans singing You'll Never Walk Alone. Saint-Tropez next. It's okay, it's a bit jazzy. I like the piano in it, but it doesn't ring home for me. And then we get Seamus. Yeah, I'm not keen on this. And when I put this on, it sets Rocky off. For those of you who don't know who Rocky is my dog. He's a dash hound. For those of you who know what Rocky's like. When this comes up, wherever he is, his ears prick up, and he goes to the front door and just sits there and barks at it. When Seamus, the dog, is barking and howling, he hates it. Then we turn it over, and then we get that masterpiece called Echoes. Starts off with the pulse, it's great guitar, and then you get that lovely harmonising vocal from Richard, Roger and Dave. Oh, doesn't that go? And then you go into this great epic of sounds and seagulls and psychedelic sounds, and then it comes back in with that, starting off with that great little guitar riff, builds up, and then all of a sudden it just goes whoomp straight back into that harmonising. This is my favourite piece of music by Pink Floyd, and it's the best piece on the album, of course. I think this is a mixed album. There's 3 great tracks and 3 not so great tracks. This is all part of that process of establishing the sound. But it's at number 6 because it's got my favourite track on it, and I love One of These Days and Fearless. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 9.5. Okay, then coming in at number 5, we get to 1970, the 2nd of October, for Atom Heart Mother. Opens up, of course, with the epic Atom Heart Mother. I just love the opening of this, that brass, that lovely deep sound. You wouldn't think this was going to be Pink Floyd, but then you get that distinctive sound coming in with the guitars from Dave Gilmour and Nick's terrific drumming, and the brass continues through this track, and then you get that lovely keyboard tones from Richard Wright. Then you get a lovely little guitar solo from Dave Gilmour. He makes that guitar talk. And then we get some choir and choral pieces and Hammond organ. Very dramatic. Then that bass line from Roger oozes through. Nick Mason's drums just get delicate, especially with them voice chants and sounds and tribal. You don't expect that, and then it just builds into other stuff, and you get another blistering solo from Dave Gilmour and the brass again. I just love this piece of music. It's again a classic. Let me tip over to side 2. Opens up with the lovely If, a little masterpiece from Roger Waters, I think. It's probably one of the best little tracks he ever done. It's very subdued and gentle. He still plays this live, and it's a great track. As we had the summer of the autumn of '68, this is the summer of '68, and it's them two are very, very close to each other. This is a lovely piece of music by Richard Wright. Terrific. Then we get Fat Old Son, another great track from written by Dave Gilmour. You start off with the church bells, and it's just all about summer and summer nights. It's great. Then we have probably the weirdest track in the world, Alan's Psychedelic Breakfast. You get a track with him cooking breakfast, and then you get some guitar work in the background, and then they're jamming, and then it just all builds to this crescendo. Nice guitar work, some lovely piano, and a nice beat from Mick Mason. I think this is a very underrated album. People sort of forget about this in places, and they shouldn't, because it is a great album. If you hadn't got this, we wouldn't have had Meddle, we wouldn't have had Dark Side of the Moon. And I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 9.6. Okay then, coming in at number 4, we have the 11th album, released in 1979, and it is The Wall. First album I ever got by Pink Floyd. Opens up with In the Flesh. That great guitar solo from riff from Dave Gilmour. Goes into the Thin Ice. Love the vocals on this, that gentle side of David's. And then you get the more atmospheric vocal from Roger, and the piano from Richard's brilliant. Another Brick on the Wall Part 1. This is the more eerie and daunting of this. It's a start. It sets the tone for the rest of this side 1. That goes into the happiest days of our lives. You get all that Stand Still Laddie, Yes, you behind the bike shed, stand still. It's just brilliant. And then in the film you get him sees himself as a poet. It's all, you know, writing down the lyrics to a certain song we'll be talking about later. That goes into, of course, another Rick and the Wall Part 2. The song that really opened my eyes to Pink Floyd, because no one else in my house liked it, so this was the first thing I really heard. Love the guitar solo, it is brilliant. Then we get the fantastic Mother, just another stunning track. Side 2 starts off with Goodbye Blue Sky. Love the acoustic guitar in this. I love the eeriness of it. Empty Spaces. Absolute monster vocal from Roger. And we get the wonderful Young Lust. Great vocal from Roger again. Great guitar riffs from Dave Gilmour. One of My Turns. I love this. Absolutely brilliant track. Don't Leave Me Now. Really dramatic. And then you get the most aggressive part of the Brick in the Wall Part 3. Absolutely, someone going absolutely mad. And then we get the short little sad Goodbye Cruel World. Side 3 opens up with my favourite track, Hey You. I love this, love the vocal, love the guitar work. It's a fantastic song. I prefer it to Comfortably Numb. And we get Is There Anybody Out There. Love the orchestral arrangement on that, which leads lovely into Nobody Home, sorry. I love this, the lyric is great. I've got them 13 channels of shit on the TV to choose from. Yeah, we get even more now. Then we get Vera, which goes into Bring the Boys Back Home, all jolly stuff, which goes into Comfortably Numb. I love this. Probably one of David Gilmour's best ever solos. Show Must Go On, little bit that gets you into to side 4. Then we get the second part of In the Flesh, the controversial one, which upsets a lot of people because of the lyric content. Not going into that because that's all political, but if you don't like it, fair enough, but don't stop people not listening to it. Then we get the brilliant Run Like Hell, great little track, stunning keyboards from Richard Wright. Then we get the amusing Waiting for the Worms. Love the harmonies in this, and then the megaphone. Then we get that 30-second stop, which goes into the Trial, which is fantastic. Roger playing all the parts of the family. Then we get Outside the Wall. It's that little on the accordion. The best version of this, of course, is the live. When you get that live, when some mad, the lyric is some mad bugger banging on your heart and some mad bugger's wall. I just like the end of it. Is this where we come in? Amazing album, amazing piece of work from Roger, one of his best. I don't think he's ever topped this. I love this album, and I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 9.7. Okay, coming in at number 3. This might upset people, but hey ho, this is what I hear from here. Is the 10th album from 1977, Animals. Opens up with Pigs on the Wing Part 1, that little nice acoustic piece, pretty cool. Goes into Dogs, starts off with that acoustic sound and then some great keyboards from Richard. But the best thing about this, well, there's two things. The bass line, from Roger, and that amazing guitar solo from David. Amazing piece of music. Side 2 starts off with pigs, 3 different ones. Starts off with the grunty piggy bits. Never saw Pink Floyd do this, but I did see the Australian Pink Floyd do it, and it was amazing. I love that keyboard piece in this from Rick, absolutely stunning. Some great drumming from Nick on this piece. Fantastic solo again, can't beat it. Then we get Sheep, my favourite track on this album. The bass line in this just drives this song all the way through. The keyboard work from Richard Wright on this is just phenomenal. But the thing that really hits you is the closing piece. It starts off with the reading of the Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, all the sheep sounds, and then you get that great bass line, and then David finishes off with that nice guitar run. It's terrific, great song. Then we get Pigs on a Wing Part 2, which is very similar to the Part 1. Yeah, a lot of people may be shocked this is not my favourite album. Doesn't make it a bad album though, I love this album. I just find the other two a little bit more personal for me. There's some great songs on this, but I do prefer the other two. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 9.8. Okay then, coming in at number 2 is the 9th album, released in 1975. The fantastic Wish You Were Here. Of course, this opens up with my second favourite song ever, Shine On You Crazy Diamond, parts 1 to 5 even. Just love it. With that great keyboard start from Richard, and then you get that stunning guitar comes in, great vocal, and then the sax, and I think it's Dick Parry. What more do you want? And it, of course, it's paying homage to the great Syd Barrett, absolutely belting. And that goes nicely into the sound effects with the lift going up, and then we get dulcet tones of Welcome to the Machine. This is tremendous, eerie, atmospheric. The keyboards from Richard Wright are superb. Ends the side, flip it over, have a cigar, you're gonna go far, and by the way, which one's pink? Featuring Roy Harper, Have a Cigar. Great little track, like that a lot. Then we get the title track, Wish You Were Here. I like how this starts with the flicking through the radio, and it picks out that acoustic start to the song, and then it goes straight into the song full. It's not my favourite track, and that'll shock a lot of you, but there you go. But it has got one of David Gilmour's best guitar solos on it. I think this is a track that gets a bit overplayed these days, which is a shame because it is a good track. Can't deny that. Then the album closes up with Shine On You Crazy Diamond, parts 6 to 9. The one that gets overshadowed, but I think this is as good as the first part. I love the keyboards in this from Richard Wright, and that bass line is so eerie, and the beat and the swells. It's an amazing piece of music. Absolutely fantastic album. Every track on here is a classic, top to bottom. RTO ranking of 9.9. So we come to my number 1 Pink Floyd album. I think everyone knows what this one will be. It's a lot of people's favourites as well. It's either this or Animals, and it's of course 1973's 8th studio album, The Dark Side of the Moon. On here, of course, we've got Dick Parry on saxophone, Claire Torrey on vocals, along with Doris Troy and Leslie Duncan and the vocal speaking is done by Barry St. John. Opens up with Speak to Me. Amazing start. That drum that sounds like your heartbeat. I'm scared of dying. I must be going mad and all that. It just adds to it. That goes then into the beautiful Breathe. You get that lovely screechy scream, and then it gets into this most chilled out piece of music with some lovely slide guitar from Dave Gilmour. Oh, I just love that. And then the tempo picks up with On the Run, all that weirdness and the laughs and everything, and that just stops, and then you get the bells in time and the clocks. Great drumming from Nick on this. And then it's got one of Dave Gilmour's best guitar solos. It's amazing. And then all of a sudden we go back into Breathe. Just like that, we go back into Breathe in the air. Brilliant. And then when that quietens down, you get them dulcet tones on the piano, and in comes the finest thing that Richard Wright ever wrote. I'm talking about The Great Gig in the Sky. Claire Torrey, fantastic set of lungs. That is awesome. It's one of my favourite pieces of music. It's my favourite track on this album. I can sit and listen to that forever. Probably top 10 in my top 10 without a doubt of Pink Floyd songs. Then side 2, we get the diddle doom, the dum dum da dum 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 dum, the brilliant Money. Go and buy me a football team. Money, it's a hit. Don't give me that do goody good bullshit. Some great lyrics in this song. And then you get that brilliant solo from Dick Parry on the sax, and then you get them driving riffs from Dave Gilmour. Great song. Don't like it live because it seems to meander on. Just give me Money from start to finish every time. Then we get the beautiful Us and Them, another great sax solo from Dick Parry. Then we get another instrumental, Any Colour You Like. Some beautiful keyboard textures from Richard Wright. Absolutely amazing stuff. Love Nick's drumming on this as well. Terrific track. And it goes into Brain Damage. The lunatics are on the grass. I love all the atmospheric and the sound effects on this. The people laughing, the chatter. Which goes into Eclipse. Love the keyboards in this from Richard. And the Hammond organ sounds so rich on this. The great drumming of Nick. Terrific. What a way to end a fantastic album. Okay, this is number 1 for me, purely on 2 things. First one, it was the second Pink Floyd album I bought. It's the second one I heard. And secondly, you remember we was talking about on the Led Zeppelin show about Led Zeppelin 2. Well, this was all part of our last summer before we left school. This was our final summer holiday, and then the next time round we'd probably all go out to work. That was the idea. And we spent the summer listening to 2 or 3 albums down by the river, because we lived near a river. One was Dark Side of the Moon, one was Led Zeppelin 2, and the other was Tilt by Cozy Powell, and the Odd Quo album. So this has got so many memories for me, and it's an album that's been imprinted on my brain for the rest of all my life. I can't get enough of this album. I have to play it at least once a month. So I'm going to give this, of course, an RTO ranking of 10 out of 10, because it is just a fantastic album. Very hard. The others can swap around, but I don't think this one will ever be knocked off its number 1 perch, because it's got so many good memories. Okay, well, that's all for today, folks. I'll be back tomorrow with the second battle of the debutantes. We have got two of my favourite bands who brought out their debut albums within months of each other. One was Black Sabbath and the other was Uriah Heep. So it's Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath against Uriah Heep. Very heavy and very humble. Looking forward to that one. You'll also get the result of last week's battle between Iron Maiden and Saxon. And also tomorrow is album artwork, and we're looking at the studio albums of my favourite guitar player, or one of them, Mr. Gary Moore. No live stream tomorrow night because we're doing it on Saturday, but there will be a little quick weekly update where I'll be telling you what we're putting on next week, telling you about some other stuff as well. So thank you for watching as ever, and if you like what we're doing, if this is your first visit, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. Bye for now.